So you say the hotter than expected read on inflation that we got out last week, it could heavily influence the midterms. Tell us why.
Yeah, it's one of the last big economic data points before the midterm elections. We're going to have the jobs report the Friday before, but I think the jobs picture is kind of understood, and I don't think it's moving voters in the same way. When you look at how voters prioritize their issues for them, it's the economy, it's inflation. You put them together, really around 35–40% of the voters are making up their minds on that. And then you throw in a number of social issues like crime, really giving some tailwinds to Republicans as we head in to the midterms. But again, the inflation report, as voters look for, the last bit of information and how they're feeling, I think the inflation report, more than anything else, reflects how voters are feeling. It's not going to lead them to change their minds. And how voters are feeling is not great on the economy right now.
So, Brian, if the Republicans are going to use inflation as a major talking point, won't Democrats just respond by saying, hey, look at the jobs market, where we've actually seen unemployment fall from 3.7, the rate, to 3.5?
Sure. I mean, that's the natural response. And if the parties were flipped, I would expect Republicans to be doing the same. But when I try and gauge what's motivating voters, it's unhappiness about price hikes. Wages are not keeping up with price hikes. People are feeling it in their pocketbooks. Yes, they're very happy to have a job. There's no doubt about that. But when you try and balance out which is motivating voters more, it's the inflation numbers. It's less the jobs numbers.
So your base case right now is Republicans get the House, but the Senate is still up for grabs, or do you think right now it's a sweep, House and Senate?
I've been up for grabs the whole time, but I do sense some momentum in the Republican direction, and I think given the timing of that inflation report, it could be one of those years where we've seen in the past. 2014, I think, was one of them, and some others where the election just kind of tilts in the middle of October. And you mentioned Georgia going to starting early voting today. As people go, I think, going into the ballot box, I think that last minute voter making up their mind, and there are not a ton of them, but they're going to determine the outcome. You're going to see a number of races that are decided by 1 point or less. I think this moves a couple of key Senate races in the Republican direction.
Should the Senate flip, what do you think the Democrats will prioritize if that happens?
Well, if the Senate flips, I think then it puts a lot of pressure on Chuck Schumer, the Democratic Senate Majority Leader, to finish up strong in December during a lame duck session. They will lose. Democrats would lose the ability to confirm judges. So I think that's going to place a heavy priority on judicial confirmations in December, and could delay some economic decisions, punt that into January when the Republicans take over. And there's some key business issues to look out for: the business interest deduction, R&D spending, how those are calculated under the Trump tax cuts. Those are issues that I think Congress was trying to deal with in December. If the Senate flips, those could actually get punted to later on.